and welcome to episode 182 of The Joy of Coding. Pardon me, my name is Mike Conley. Welcome to The Joy of Coding, where I'm going to be live hacking on Firefoxy things. What's up? Good to see you. If you're watching this on Twitch and YouTube, congratulations. We got it working this week. Last week there was a problem with the repeater that we use to cross-stream between the various platforms, but I think we've got it working this week. Fingers crossed. So if you're watching this on YouTube and Twitch, hooray, we fixed it. Let's get down to business. What's going on? First of all, let me switch to my screen. It is July 10th, 2019, episode 182, and for the folks who are new, a reminder, no plan survives breakfast. I have a sense of what I want to do today, even though the agenda is astonishingly empty. I do have a sense of what I want to do today, but none of it's really pre-planned beyond that I know I want to do it. None of the code I'm going to write has been rewritten. I don't have the solutions kind of like mapped out in my head already. We're capturing software development in the raw, and that is something that I'm hoping you enjoy. That's like that. This is going to be completely unedited when you see it. You're seeing me do my job as I would do it at my desk, only I'll be speaking out loud as I do it. So there you go. There is also this agenda that we're looking at, and that might be useful to you if you want to click on any links, and as I update it and it synchronizes, you might want to have access to it. So if you're watching this on Air Mozilla, check out the handouts section over here. If you're on YouTube, on the other hand, check out the video description for the link. And if you're watching this on Twitch, well, I'm just gonna paste it in the Twitch chat because I have no idea what the better way is. I think Smurf D suggested there may be a place in Twitch for me to put like a link somewhere, but I couldn't really figure it out. So the agenda, I just pasted it into the Twitch chat for those people there. And I do want to point out, speaking of Smurf D, that there is an episode guide. If you're curious about what I talked about last week or the week before, what topics we covered, check out the episode guide because it's got episodes going all the way back to episode 1. And some of the episode guides are pretty empty, but some of them flesh out exactly what I was working on, the bugs, they'll link to maybe some of the notes that I wrote, that sort of thing, maybe the topics I covered, other handy links, as well as links to the agenda and the actual episode on Air Mozilla. So worth checking out. I don't think we have episode 181 on here. Let's see if there's a pull request for it, though. Because there maybe is a pull request. Whoops. Joy of Coding episode guide. There is no pull request, so we still need to get episode 181 up from last week. The problem with episode 181, as I said, was because it didn't stream properly. So I believe it is... I did upload a copy to YouTube, if I remember correctly. Let me just double check. Joy of Coding, episode 181. That's what we're looking for here. Where's my internet? Come on, here we go. Okay, Joy of Coding, episode 181. Does it exist? It does, 6 days ago. And 40 people have watched it. That's very nice. And it's only 50 minutes long. I had to cut last week's episode a little short. So, it doesn't all have to be on Smurf D. The thing about the episode guide is that it is completely viewer driven. If you want to contribute, there's a repository here on GitHub. A link to that is in the agenda here, and as well as guides on how you can contribute. Perhaps you watched episode 150 and you want to add some addenda or notes or corrections. Maybe I talked about something that's no longer true. Maybe times have changed and we need to update the episode guide. So send me a pull request. I'm very eager to accept pull request submissions. So what do I want to work on today? Great question. So today is kind of a special day because a blog post went out that I wrote about picture-in-picture. And if you have been watching this series for a while, you'll know that over the past couple of months, I've been working on picture-in-picture off and on. So let's take a look at this blog post. I'll add it to the agenda if in case you haven't read it yet. Blog post about picture-in-picture that we're testing on Windows in Firefox Beta 69 and Developer Edition 69. So here's that link. Let that synchronize. And then if you reload the agenda, you should have the most up-to-date version. And so it goes and talks about like how it works and why we're doing it and like what the use cases are. And one of the things that I wanted to get done for this demonstration, effectively this testing round, was keyboard accessibility, but unfortunately we did not get that in time, and I want to take another crack at it. So I actually have some of the work already done in that I did a lot of refactoring. So I've switched now to my Windows box. I'm using, so Ocris points out that it also works on Linux, at least for them. I'll point out that that may very well be true. You're not the first person, Ocris, to tell me that picture-in-picture works for Linux, but we've not, in a tiling window manager even. That's amazing. That's good to hear. We haven't done any testing on Linux, but we have been hearing reports that it just kind of works, which is amazing. I mean, it's the miracle of cross-platform development. Sometimes when you do something in the cross-platform parts of the code base, like it'll just kind of work. I know for Mac OS there are a lot of problems still with the picture-in-picture player window, and so we've been focusing mainly on Windows. And so if it happens to work in Linux, great. But it's not currently being tested there by our quality assurance folk. So your mileage may vary. So I wanted to talk about the keyboard accessibility and how that was going to work. I have a build of relatively recent nightly here, and I've got a couple of patches on top that I need to actually rebase. So I'm going to start by rebasing the patches that I've been working on top of what we have here. So I had to, we were adding some telemetry probes as well to see like whether or not people need to resize the window often. And so that landed yesterday. And so I had to update that patch to handle problems with some like linting issues. And so now I have to rebase my patches on top of that commit. Now that commit's actually in Central right now, but I don't want to pull from Central right away and have to deal with all that. So I'm just going to evolve -a. What that's going to do, evolve is a command that notices that this revision here is a mutation of this revision. Like I amended this revision and it became this one, and these commits were based on the original. And so this one is now marked obsolete. That's what that little X is. And these are now orphans. And so when I run evolve, what's going to happen is Mercurial knows to try and rebase these orphan change sets on top of this revision because it was originally based on this. And this is what that revision mutated to. So we're going to run hg evolve -a means to do them all. And let's see what happens. SDK. So a lot of people are testing on Linux. SDK in the Live Hacking IRC channel says that picture-in-picture kind of works with their tiling manager BSPWM on Linux too. Well, that's amazing. Nil Cyril in the Twitch chat says, "Hi, I'm new to your stream, but if you want to be seen on Twitch, you definitively want to add the programming tag. Also, why is your YouTube chat disabled?" Great questions. So, well, first of all, thank you for letting me know about the programming tag. I guess I'll do that. Let me take a to-do on my agenda. Add the programming tag to do after the stream. Add programming tag to Twitch stream settings. And then the other question is, why is YouTube chat disabled? And the answer is because I've already got too many places where chat's occurring. I've already got two. One is happening in IRC, in the Live Hacking IRC channel, and the other one's happening on Twitch. Thankfully, I've got it so that I think Twitch has an IRC bridge, which allows me to use the same IRC client to both communicate with the Live Hacking channel and the Twitch chat. And I don't think such a bridge exists for YouTube chat, so I shut off the chat there. So if you want to chat, if you're interested in chatting, come talk to me on IRC. If you're curious about how to do that, there's some information in the agenda on how to chat. Although if you watched the stream ago or a couple of streams ago, I'm also investigating moving to Matrix as a chat platform instead. And then maybe I can bridge to Twitch and IRC and all of these various things. All right, so yeah, there's the blog post, and as I was saying, we're looking at the keyboard accessibility, and we are rebasing these changes. It's taking its sweet time. It's merging. Nils Searle also says software development. Add that tag. Okay, thank you. Add programming and software development tags to Twitch stream settings. Thank you for the advice. All right. Wow. This rebase taking a while. Let me tell you a little. Oh, SDK was saying I was about to propose Matrix with an IRC bridge. Hey, great minds think alike. So these commits, I can talk a little bit about them while we're waiting for them to rebase. Basically, these commits are a major refactor of the script that is running inside of the picture-in-picture player window. And the reason for that is because originally, I can show you the script as it exists today. It's pretty messy. It was written kind of in a hurry, and it uses a lot of like anonymous functions. This is doing all of the work to set up click event handlers on the various controls and handling things like when the window unloads, etc., etc. And I wanted to factor some of this out a little bit to make it easier to document, reduce some of the anonymous functions. And so the first patch in the series is there was a conflict. I'm going to have to deal with that conflict. That's probably why it took so long. So I'm going to have to, before I talk to you more about the refactor, let us deal with this conflict. So let's open up this file, player.js. They've got conflict markers in here. And I believe what we're likely... what is the difference? So destination was this. Evolving... was that? Oh, and there are a couple other problems down here. Oh, I think I know what went wrong. So we ran Prettier. We're using Prettier, JS Prettier now as like a styling mechanism for the JavaScript in the tree. And I think one of the things that happened was we updated... Yeah, one of the things that changed was we used to have the properties passed to record event as strings, and now I think they're like literals here. Okay, so the good news is that I can drop this entirely. The create, I believe, is already being handled up here. I believe there's a create being used. Yeah, it's up here. So I can get rid of this marker, and I'm going to keep this part. The resize debouncer is already set up here. We don't need that again. And the setting of the event recording enabled, that's already done up here. So it was just like the refactor kind of collided with the rebase a little bit. And casual observers might notice that what was a very short script, like what did it look like? Player.js, I had it open somewhere. It was a lot shorter, and now it's like, oh, it's so verbose. And short doesn't always necessarily mean better. I feel like, especially now, this has been factored out so that it's clearer. It's split out. I can document the individual parts of it more easily. It's less of a big woolly ball of anonymous functions. There are still a couple of anonymous functions. We might want to clean this one up too. Maybe this one up as well. But I feel pretty confident with this refactor. So the other thing we want to clean up is there was an mouse out event listener, and that's now being handled explicitly over here. So we don't need this. We don't need that chunk. And wait a second. Yeah, we don't need that at all. We just want this. What's here? Oops. And then there's this chunk. So yeah, we don't need the create, like I said earlier. We just need the stuff down below. Pretty straightforward rebase, or conflict resolution, I should say. So now I will resolve mark toolkit components picture-in-picture content player.js. We're going to resolve it, and then we can continue our evolve. And this will hopefully not take nearly as long. For the folks who are new to the stream, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. Is there anything you need to know? Sometimes I play sound effects. Mamma mia! Oh yeah, and we can celebrate a little bit. Let's celebrate the fact that Picture-in-Picture is now out for beta and dev edition users on Windows. Pretty pleased about that. Yeah, this refactor. This refactor is handy as part of making the keyboard accessibility work occur, because I think the keyboard accessibility stuff is going to add a little bit of complication. So the refactor is the first part. That's the first chunk of patches. The second chunk is to switch the buttons, so the markup for the picture-in-picture player window was using just like divs with click events before, which that's not how we should have been doing it. And now we're using like real buttons instead. That has immediate accessibility advantages. It is closer. It's what they're for. We can take advantage of like the accessibility capabilities of buttons, in particular the ability to focus them and have a tab index so that you can like select them, and then there's like a focus ring around them, and we can style the focus ring. What is going on with Mercurial? Why is this taking so long? I wonder if there's going to be another merge conflict. Maybe that's what we're hitting here. Sometimes whenever Mercurial's having a hard time, it'll do a merge conflict. Oh, it's merging. It's thinking. Think really hard. Come on, Mercurial. Oh, it's doing it. And then the last patch on top of so yeah, I'm adding the work in progress, the keyboard support. So if we go back to the graph, I had refactor, and then, oh yeah, switching to standard buttons. And I also merged the play and the pause buttons. Before we had individual play and pause buttons, and one would hide the other depending on which state you were in. But we actually want to keep, I've made it so that they're the same button. It's just going to be called play pause. And that's so that the focus, like if you have two separate buttons that are hiding or showing, then the focus is going to change whenever you hide or show one another. So now I'm just keeping it the same button and changing the icon. So I merged the two buttons there. And then the last thing is to add the preliminary keyboard shortcuts. And that's pretty straightforward with things like just using tab and hitting the space bar, and using tab index to make sure that the right items, probably the most critical items in the picture-in-picture player window, are highlighted first whenever you tab to it. And we can like get rid of things that shouldn't be focusable. We can remove the focusability of the ones that are nonsense. And there's another consideration, which is about when the controls appear. So one thing to note, let's go to YouTube. Let's actually look up Joy of Coding, episode 181. Let's find it from last week. I'll play it, and I'll mute it so we don't have to hear it. It's a little bit of Joy of Coding inception here, but we've got our picture-in-picture player window, and one of the things I want you to notice is that the controls go away whenever I mouse away. And we want the controls to show up again whenever we keyboard shortcut. Like we want to basically add a special kind of state to the picture-in-picture player window where we notice, hey, the user is, I'm doing the same gesture as I'm doing in the video, except I have more beard now. The user is using a keyboard to navigate, so let's make sure that these controls are visible. And then as soon as the user has like used one of the commands, maybe they select an item, then we'll hide the controls. Or if they hit escape, maybe let's hide the controls. That's what I'm thinking. And we might want to hide the controls immediately, or maybe we want to hide them after a couple of seconds. I'm not sure which, but let's try the hide immediately one because that'll be simpler. So our rebase is done. Let's quickly build, and then we can test out what I've got so far. So lots of people watching this stream are using Linux. Amazing. And it's great to hear that videos work on Linux in general. I remember back whenever I was in school using Linux, getting video to work properly was always hit and miss. Okay, let us test. All right, so let's go to YouTube as our test bed. Pardon the lag. I'm using like a remote desktop client. I'm basically remoting into the Windows desktop that I have at my desk. So that's why the frames aren't as smooth as you might be used to. So here's our toggle. I'm going to click it. We've got our player window here. And so those controls go away if the mouse leaves. And now I'm going to focus the window, the original window. So that's another bug that happens periodically where like these white borders show up that, but I think it only occurs sometimes, and I often see it whenever I'm using RDP, but let's not get distracted. I'm gonna hit play, and then we're gonna demonstrate here. So I'm gonna hit Alt-Tab to focus the window, and then I'll hit Tab. So now what is focused is the unpip tab, or the unpip button. You can't really tell, but I can tell. There's like a really subtle dotted outline around the icon. So that's not great visibility wise. Like it's really unclear. Now it's been moved to the close button, and then it goes to, I think the entire window is focused, and then back to the pause button. So the pause button is now selected. So if I hit spacebar, it pauses. If I hit it again, it plays. It's interesting. Notice how like the buttons will like briefly appear and disappear whenever I hit the command. That's not great. We probably don't want that. Did this time. So let's take a note. Let's see here. Oh, this one is landed in integration. I'm going to create a new note. This one's for keyboard accessibility. And I will share the note so you can all follow along. Okay, so what's this one called? Oh yeah, let me just copy this again. Whoops. Now we need the link to the notes, and that's over here. There we go. So now you can follow along. If you reload the agenda, which I've just synced, then you can follow along in the notes as I fill them in. Okay, so things to do. Make sure that the controls don't flicker when using when running command via keyboard. Now this is something I might need to run by UX actually, like what the right solution is. There's like, because there's a couple things we can do. Let me enumerate them. If the user focuses the pip player window and hits a key, show the controls. That's what we currently do. And then we can do one of two things. We want to keep the controls always visible, even if the user uses a command. Keep the controls visible even after firing a command. Only hide the controls when the user switches focus away or hits escape. That's the first option. And that way the user can see where their focus is and it's clear. The second one, and like it's not like the window will be focused and then they'll know what exactly will happen if they hit spacebar again, for example, or if they hit tab again. Although if they were to hit tab again, then the controls would appear again. Keep the controls visible after firing a command. Hide the controls after firing the command. Hide the controls after some number of seconds after firing the command. I think that's it. Those are my options, I think, that I'm thinking of. Other things to do, remove, this might be more important, remove the browser element as focus, as something that can be focused. Then I also need to make the focus ring way more visible, so that's clear which button has been focused, or which item is actually like selected. But other than that, like we've got, it's quite nice just with the built-in buttons. Oh. With the come on, don't, I have to make sure that the right window is selected, and then I hit tab. Right, with the built-in like HTML buttons, we get keyboard accessibility built in. I hit spacebar, it goes back here. I can close the window as well. Close the window. There's a slight subtle difference between this button, the unpip button, and the close window button. And I'll tell you what it is in a second. So if we were to play this video again, and you're over here, and your boss comes around and doesn't want you to be like playing movie trailers in the background, the close button just makes it go away immediately. Whereas the unpip button, what it will do is it will put the video back and then take you back to where you were. So it will focus the original tab. So that's the difference between the two. So yeah, we've got some initial keyboard accessibility, which is good. But I think we need to make some kind of decision here. And remove, let's put together a list of work of things that we can do now, and then maybe I might have to talk to the accessibility team and the UX team to figure out which one of these we should actually ship, but maybe we can do the simplest one as a proof of concept for this episode. So I definitely want to remove the browser element as something that can be focused. I need to make the focus ring more visible. I need to contact UX and product to get input on focus ring styling, and then similarly contact UX and product to get input on control persistence after firing command, control visibility after firing command via keyboard shortcut. And then making sure the controls don't flicker when running the command via keyboard. Okay. So let's start by actually making things easier for ourselves by making the focus ring just more visible in general. The focus ring is something that we actually have the ability to influence using a special CSS style, like a pseudo selector, -moz -focus ring. I'm not entirely certain whether or not that's something that the web content has access to. Moz focus ring. Is that something that... It's non-standard, don't use it in production, but we can use it in the right. Developers tend to use mouse focus ring to differentiate between the focus state when the user focuses on an element via mouse click versus keyboard tapping. It's also potentially useful if you can custom element change style based on its behavior. So, right, see, they've styled the focus ring so that it's like dotted green with an outline. So what I'm going to say is Moz focus ring inside here. I gotta do this on my Windows box. We can probably do this even without restarting. I can use the browser toolbox, the style editor. And let's change windows to the player window here. There's player.css. I'm going to add Moz focus ring, outline 1px solid red. So it's a bad choice, but it'll certainly be visible. And then I need to, so that's not working. Did I, oh, hang on, dash. I think I need to do that way. Yeah, there we go. Now we've got this red circle, or red circle, this red square showing up. And also notice that there is the remaining dot around the icon, which is interesting. Is that what it is? What is getting this focus ring? Something down within this this node. Let's take a look, see if we can inspect what's happening here. And it's tricky because I want to be able to do this, but I'm going to be switching focus as I do it. Let's use this button. Custom element. Now I've got the custom element definition. Is there like a, right. What I need is like to be able to see the shadow DOM in here. I need shadow DOM. Do I have, I think there's like a preference to allow me to inspect shadow DOM. Shadow, show user agent shadow roots. Yeah, true. Okay, let us now restart. I can do that relatively quickly by opening the browser console and going Control-Alt-R. And then going back to this movie trailer for something, I don't know. This is not an endorsement of this movie. I have no idea what this movie's about. Also, if it's not immediately clear for the new people who are watching this stream, I'm Canadian, and you can probably tell by the way I say about. All right, so now I'm going to switch focus to the player, and then I'm going to, I don't need the browser console anymore. Go to the style editor. Oh, actually, I'm going to go to the inspector and make sure that we can actually drill into the buttons themselves. See, that's a problem. Why can't I get inside? I thought we'd be able to show custom element. It's going to show me the the definition. Show me like the underlying. I want the like the. Give me the underlying Shadow DOM stuff. Maybe we don't get that here. Well, that's too bad. All right. Well, then we're gonna have to guess. So what I was trying to figure out was how come, like, what's this little black box? And it appears to be wrapping around the icon. Let's see if we can find out by inspecting the toolbar button binding. So what is the custom element? It's button.js, elements/button.js. Let's take a look at that script. Oh, it must be actually somewhere different as a source in the source tree. Here it is. Widget. Okay. Let's see if there's anything in here about a focus ring. No. Advanced focus, rewind focus test. Okay. Is there a CSS style sheet here? Moz pop-up. Let's take a look at whenever the buttons were ported to custom element. Right here is when it happened. Toolbar button was ported. And was there anything in here about focus ring? No. How about a CSS style sheets? Not really. Okay. Well, what is the underlying binding doing? Like, what's it using? It's a Moz1 base. Wrap and block friendly to win the scope. What is it? Button icon. Oh, that's interesting. Inherited attributes. Button icon, source image. Fragment, button icon. Button fragment. So I guess this is the anonymous stuff that's inside it. The button box, and then a button icon and button text. And so what is dot button icon? Is that something I can influence? Flash player. What? So if I go like, what did I have before? I had Moz focus ring. Outline 1px solid red. Let's make it even bolder. 2px solid red. There it is. Nice and bold. We probably don't actually want to ship that, but it'll do for now. And then under the button itself, button controls, button box. Do I have access to that? Solid green. Doesn't look like it. Button. action button. Let's get an example here. Tracking action button box. What am I doing right now? I'm trying to find examples of us manipulating the underlying Shadow DOM stuff. Go back. So maybe there's a little bit more. Maybe it's not a direct descendant. Maybe it's like this. Doesn't look like it. How do I influence what styles are applied to it? Let's take a look at the rules. Model's appearance is none. And let's give it focus. No? Okay. Focus within. No. Neither of these are helpful. I'm just kind of poking around. I'm kind of guessing here. What could it be? What's inside the button? Because it's inside. Button. Box inherit, button icon. Access key. Button menu drop marker. Are we sure that this thing is actually using this binding? Like, let's double check. Let me add a click event listener there. I don't know if it is. I think maybe our dev tools are confused. Just to double check, let me set a breakpoint in here. Set a breakpoint in here. Let's close this window and reopen it. Oh, we are constructing something. Okay, so we did call it for something, so maybe we are using it. And the buttons are styled so that background color, background radius is 4 pixels. Let's simplify this. So now it's a box. Let's also make the background color white. Or no, let's make the background color something else stand out. Orange. Okay. So, because like the icon's leaking out, which makes me think it's not the icon. Let's see if we can find an example of us manipulating the focus ring on a button. Copy button. View button not hover, not active. Tracking protection button, mouse focus ring. Like maybe that's what it, like if it's more precise, maybe like if I say controls button, mouse focus ring, outline 1px solid red. Or let's make it even more stark, 5px solid red. No, see it, there's still that black outline. So something underneath. Is it the label? The button doesn't have a label. So what could have this focus ring? Some chatter in IRC. I've been doing my stalking via XMPP for all these years for what it's worth. Oh, gotcha. That's from Pep. Thanks, Pep. Let's take a look at a normal button. The button element. How do I focus this frame? Show only this frame. There. See, I get my black outline here. So now, can I influence this? Styled Moz focus ring. I don't know if this is gonna like take effect immediately. Solid blue. Yeah, there's double. Oh, you know what? Maybe it's border. Maybe that's the problem. Border. No, it's not border. It's something underneath. Something inside. Let's see if anyone else has had to deal with this. Focus ring, button, black, dotted. Here we go. Moz focus inner. What is that? What is that? Moz focus inner. That's interesting. So like if I say, now I go back to here and I say controls button, Moz focus inner. Oh. Border none. I don't know if that's the right rule. What was the rule? It's like border 0, button, Moz focus inner, border 0. Or outline none important. Outline none. Maybe I have to say outline none. Maybe it's an outline. Nope. Still there. Oh, I've got a little dash there. That's probably not helping. Okay, border. Oh, I need the dash here. So many fools. So many me being fools. Still there. Do I have any control over it? Can I say outline 3px solid black? Nope. Controls mod. Maybe it's something I need to say is really important. Maybe it's a prioritization thing. Nope. Huh, I thought we were onto something here. Moz focus inner. Do I have that? Let's see examples of us using this in other places. Let's go back here. See if we can get rid of it. Border 0, outline 0. No, it's still there, yo. Let's focus inner. Is there a documentation? Focus within. Interesting. I did not know that existed. It's visible. Well, you know what? I think the black dots only show up on Windows. So if we're going to do any of these examples, I think we have to do them on Windows. Oh, I still have a breakpoint, I think. Aaron Ramist waves via Matrix. Hello. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Okay, so focus here. Now focus here. I've got that dotted outline. There it is. Dotted outline again. So that's not it. Let's look again at DXR. And, oh, I've got this video playing in the background. That's probably not very good. Moz focus inner. How have we used this before in the tree? We use the double colon. That's interesting. That would be crazy if that has something to do with it, the double colon. But you never know. Stranger things have happened. Let's try that. Button double colon, Moz focus inner, no border. Hey, and it's gone. It's the double colon. That's crazy. If I go back to single colon, what happens? It comes back. What? Okay. That's so strange. I never thought that the double colon and the single colon would have anything to, would be different, would ever behave differently. That's very odd. Maybe worth writing down. Hang on, CSS double colon, single colon. What does the double colon mean? It means pseudo element selector. It means the element to the right doesn't exist in a normal DOM. Maybe it's because Moz focus inner is like a pseudo class versus pseudo element. Oh, pseudo element. It's a pseudo element. It's the focused inner element, not a class. Okay, gotcha. So it's a special element. I understand. Thank you very much, SDK. Yeah, you're saving my butt here. You're helping me learn. Okay, so get rid of the inner dotted black line. Do away with this via Moz focus inner, setting border to 0. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Let's do away with all the customizations that we've already put in. We're going to open up a brand new window. And now we're going to get our dev tools. Did our dev tools close? No, good. We're going to go back to player, choose player.css, and we're going to say button Moz focus ring. We're going to say border or outline 1px. Let's say 2px solid red for now. And then we're also going to say button Moz focus inner border 0. Let's take a look. Yeah, that's right. Okay, now I actually don't think we want it to be red. Let's try white for now. Is that, I don't know if that would be clear enough for, it really depends on the background. Because if the background of the video is like bright white, then it becomes, like, see right now the background is black, so I couldn't use a black background. But if the background of the video becomes like white, then white's no good. So what you want really is something with like a drop shadow or something. Let's see. I'm trying to remember how to do like borders with drop shadows. Drop shadow. Box shadow or drop shadow. Filter. That's not exactly what, oh, that's intense. Box shadow. That's kind of maybe what we want. Oh, that's interesting. Seems strange. Box shadow, and then you give it like olive and red. So strange. You know what? For now, I'm gonna ask UX for their opinion. I can get the colors later, but for now, I think this gives us our some visibility, at least for debugging. So now we know what we're focusing on. Good. Now, what's the item that's being focused here? It's hard to tell. You probably can't see, but a dotted line is appearing around the video. I can actually do kind of a hack here where I can, I'm going to add a special interval. Let interval equal set interval. Like I can get this the currently focused element, and right now nothing is focused because I've got the developer tools focused, but I can say let interval ID equals set interval, and I'm going to have every second we're going to console log the services focused element, and do that every second. So null, and now the browser is focused. So we start with the button, the play pause button, then the unpip button, and the close button, and then the Zool browser. So I don't think the Zool browser should be allowed to get focus because there's really no point. There's nothing you can do with it. So let us Now cancel that interval, clear interval ID. So we don't have that running anymore. And let's see if we can stop the focus on the browser. There's actually the ability to do that with CSS. I think it's something like user focus. What is the Moz user focus? None. So Moz user focus, if you're not familiar with it, it's another CSS attribute that is non-standard. Whether an element can have focus. So I'm going to say we don't want it to have focus, and so yeah, ignore. We want ignore. So let's go back to Windows. We're going to say for the browser, Moz user focus ignore. So now if I go here and now I just loop between these three controls, and that's better. Play, pause, unpip, close, play, pause, etc., etc. All right. Cool, cool, cool. And what's with all these errors? Illegal value. What are these illegal values being fired? That's a to-do. I think it's like every time we picture child 627. Not to get distracted, but it is somewhat related. 627. It's whenever we say paused or playing. For some reason it's not liking it. Okay. Well, good to know. Good to know. It is sending a message though, because the player state is updating. So that's good. Now I actually only want that outline to appear if we are key focused. And I think I can control that via an attribute I added. Keying, controls keying. So now the controls, if I'm not keying, the controls do not have the outline by default unless I start keying. And now I'm no longer keying. Oh, and now I close the window. So that's interesting. We might want to make it so that, I think that's something we'll probably want to ask UX about. Man, and I've lost all my changes too, but we can start writing them down. Let's get them going. We know what we're doing now. First of all, the Moz user focus ignore on the browser, and then we want to make it so that the button Moz focus inner, we want the border to be none. And then we also want it so that if controls keying button Moz focus ring, then I'm going to give you an outline of 2px solid white. Let's take a look at how that works. Will these Moz things be deprecated in the future? Example, could tab index be used to add or remove an element from the DOM instead of Moz user focus? I think tab index, so tab index is something I'm using inside of here to like indicate priority of what item gets focused when you're tabbing around. But I don't think beyond that tab index can be used to like disable focusability, can it? Negative value means the element should be focusable but should not be reachable via sequenced keyboard navigation. Oh. So maybe that's what we should do instead. Should be focusable, but the order is defined by the document source order. Maybe we could use that instead. To answer your question, though, I don't think a lot of these Moz CSS elements will be deprecated in the future. I don't think there's much of a maintenance burden for them as opposed to like XBL or Zool stuff. Maybe we could use this instead. Focusable, but should not be reachable via sequential keyboard navigation. Let's try that. So instead of, we'll give that -1, and then we're gonna get rid of user focus ignore on the browser. And let's rebuild this thing and see what we get. I'm glad we were able to figure out that focus inner thing. That was driving me nuts. Good job, folks. We did it as a team. I never had an older brother or a younger brother where like we would like, you know, that's like a trope where the older brother's like playing a video game and then the younger brother's like, can I play? And then the older brother, it doesn't have to be a brother, it could be a sibling. The older sibling is like, we are playing, you're on my team. And then the younger sibling is not actually holding a controller or something. A classic. So that works perfectly. We can use just tab index. So let's work with that. So perhaps what we can also do is trying to think of like what makes sense to do. So like I'm trying to imagine here. So we open this thing, I want to pause it. Boom, paused, play, pause, play, pause, play. Okay. Well, we don't want it flashing in and out. I know that much. Keying. Let's say controls. We only want to do that. We only want to set the keying attribute maybe if the user hit tab and not necessarily any key, but like just tab. Maybe that makes the most sense. Yeah. Hey, event DOM VK tab. Let's try that. So that's inside player.js. So on key down, we're going to look at the event. If event dot, what is it? Event dot key code equals key event. I'm going to use it in this form. I like this form. Fit. Though there are multiple forms. There are many like it, but this one is mine. If it's the tab, then we'll add that attribute. All right. Let's take a look at how that works now. Watch more tennis. YouTube thinks I like tennis. Okay. So here's the idea then. Okay, I'm watching picture in picture. All is going well. I'm like, do. Looking at this. Suddenly I'm like, oh, pause that. So I switch focus to the picture in picture window. And I hit spacebar. Now I hit tab and then spacebar. Maybe spacebar should, maybe the default action on spacebar or the default focused element should be the play pause button. Autofocus. Autofocus. HTML. Input autofocus. So maybe if we put autofocus on the play pause button, then we don't have to hit tab first, and it's just like the default. So player controls, play pause, we're going to say autofocus. More tennis. Oh, it hates it. Not well formed. Because it's HTML. And in HTML, we have to form well. Autofocus. What do I have to say about it? Autofocus. Autofocus equals true, I guess, or set it to some value. We can't just have like an empty attribute in XHTML, because that's what this is, XHTML, not an HTML document. More tennis. Wimbledon meltdown. Advertisement. Blah, blah, blah. Buy Apple. Do it. Do it. Buy Apple hardware. I mean, it's okay hardware, but it's expensive. Just my opinion. All right. Here we go. So by default, by default, play and pause is focused. Nice. So if I switch back here and then I switch back here, we get that autofocus action. If I tab, then it switches focus to unpip. I almost want it to, like, if I tab, I want it to keep focus where it is. Well, that's tricky. Might actually have to do some scripting here, because what I'm thinking is adding key down. The play pause button is focused by default. If the key event keying. It's like using tab to reveal. I've heard of this sort of pattern before. I'm trying to. I took a course on it, like accessibility. Oh, there's a question in the Twitch chat. I'm currently on Firefox 69. I've tried getting to pip via the hover shortcut and the control in the video element to no avail. Is this Mac or Win only for the moment? And then Akris goes, it works on Linux too, at least in nightly. Pip, I mean, don't know about your problem. And then Charge Neon goes, I'm on Dev 69.0 B3. It might be that Arch is, okay, so Charge Neon, it's only enabled on Windows for now. It is not enabled by default on Linux, although some people have had some success enabling it and using it. Ocarus, for example, has apparently had some success, and SDK in the live hacking channel has had some success, but it's not enabled by default because we haven't done much like actual in-house testing. The fact that it works is like a kind of a miracle. But if you want to turn it on, there are prefs you can flip. You can let me just tell you the prefs to flip. If you go to about config, the prefs to flip are picture-in-picture enabled. Let me put this in the notes here. Enabling pip. That's one, and then the other one is this one. You enable these two, and that should give you picture-in-picture. And apparently it works okay on Linux. So good luck out there. What is, it's like this like hidden accessibility tab. Show or hide object tabs. ARIA tab panel. It's like hide tabs. So like if you were to go to cbc.ca, there's like something you can do. Like the first thing you do is hit, there's like a key that you hit. Maybe it's not like CBC that does it. It's maybe W3C would do it. Something that shows up whenever you like hit a specific key. I don't remember what it was. Like hidden accessibility menu on websites. Landmarks, navigation, maybe that's about it. Code your navigation using links. Put the links on our list structure. Use the semantic nav tag. Mobile trigger. Not exactly. It was something that I heard about where it's like some websites expose this thing and it's like a shortcut menu. It's not exactly a standard, but it's like this convention. Because what I ultimately want is like, I want users to be able to like just use spacebar to play pause like what we currently have. And then if they tab, I guess the question is, so done, get rid of the done. I need to figure this stuff out. I figured that out for now. I need to figure out the styling and the visibility. The other thing I need to figure out is find out about accessibility best practices on like initial focus and revealing focus, best practice on initial focus, hidden controls, and revealing controls with tab. For example, if we have the play pause button focused by default and it's hidden, and the user hits tab to reveal the controls, then does it make sense to advance focus to the next control, or should we keep, or should tab be how we reveal controls first and then switching through I worry about breaking accessibility guidelines by, hijacking the very first tab, like, because that's my gut instinct is like the very first tab is, okay, let me reveal to you the controls that you have available. The other thing we could do is like focus the browser by default and then have spacebar play and pause, and then if the user hits tab, then the next thing that's focused is the play pause button, and then it cycles and skips a button. You know what? I clearly need to talk to the accessibility team. That's what I think I've determined here. So we got pretty far. We have something that's somewhat keyboard accessible here. Let's take a look at the final product with what we got, and then I'll call the episode. But we got something. We're close. I need a consult. This is less about how do we do this and more what's the like I can implement any of these choices. I just need to know what the right one is. Like what's the expected user interaction? Pause, play, pause. Okay, now that's selected. Play, pause, play, pause, play, pause. Go back. Picture in picture. X. Escape. Should maybe escape stop us from keying. Maybe that's the other thing I'll do. Else if event.keycode equals key event.dom vk escape. We'll remove the attribute. But I definitely need to talk to the accessibility team to figure out what the right move is here. I don't want to screw this up for people who want to use keyboards. Charge Neon's like, I'm glad I was able to catch this episode. I always watch the YouTube uploads after the fact as it's easier, but it makes it more difficult to interact and help. Well, thank you, Charge Neon, because you did help. It was good to have you here. I'm happy you're testing stuff out on Linux. Getting some more of that Linux in the world. So thanks, Charge Neon. I'm glad you were able to catch the live show. Dom VK Escape. Is that what it is? Dom VK Escape? Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to call it here. Thank you so much for watching episode 182 of The Joy of Coding. I hope that was interesting. We learned some stuff today, or I learned some stuff today about Moz Focus Inner. Neat. And what else did we learn? We learned that keyboard accessibility is an interesting thing, especially if things are showing and hiding. We also learned that this border problem appears very easily whenever I'm using RDP and when I'm remote desktoping in. And I wonder if that's something that I need to something that I'm going to need to address. Yeah. Keying. Wait a second. And they stay visible, right? Yeah, okay, good. Cool. All right. Well, in that case, I'm going to not be distracted anymore. I'm going to call it. Again, thank you so much for watching. It's been great. I'm really happy you were here to catch all this live. And if you're watching this recording, I'm so glad you're watching the recording. That's very nice of you. Let me know what you thought. Smash that rate this episode link inside of the agenda here. Let me know what you thought. I'm going to drop the link to this inside of the Twitch chat and the inside of the live hacking channel, and let me know what you thought of the episode. I read all of the feedback that comes in, and I will use it to shape the episode and make sure it's what you need and what you enjoy. And on that note, let me just switch back here. And I think I don't have any conflicts next week, so I should be back with episode 183. We are crawling slowly towards episode 200. Slowly but surely. It'll be sometime, let's see, 183 next week. That's 17 episodes left. 17 weeks from now. That'll take us it'll almost be 2020. I mean, with modulo some holidays in there, and maybe I'll have to skip a couple episodes, it'll be early 2020. We'll have episode 200. So put your thinking caps on now about something special I can do for episode 200. Maybe I can program while suspended over a shark tank or something. And with that, again, take care. I will see you soon. Bye. See ya.